Okay, so another thing that I also think is that I can't drive anymore because since I was the one who was driving and I was driving alone when I had my accident, I don't feel like I am capable of not getting in an accident anymore or driving the correct way.
Okay. So it's really affecting, not being able to drive is affecting every area of your life.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go on to the third part, the third top left.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to move away from these difficult or inner experiences? So what do you do to avoid these thoughts, to avoid flashbacks, avoid driving?
Okay. So one of the biggest things that I do is that I don't leave the house, or instead of like driving into town for something, I'll just try to like walk to the grocery store down the street, even though it might not have everything that I need. So I'll kind of keep myself isolated. I won't leave. I won't go visit my friends, or I have other people drive me. Like I said, I have my mom or my boyfriend drive me. And I've also, like I said, my education is very important to me, so I want to keep going to classes, but since I have to wait for other people to get out of their jobs or work, I've been having to go to night classes, so I've kind of rearranged my entire life around it.
Okay. Yeah. So, number 4 will be, what could you do to move toward who or what is important to you?
Okay.
So, if you want to go through, write down a couple.
So, like, driving myself, things like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, my biggest thing, like, obviously what I want to get back into doing is being confident enough to drive myself again and becoming more independent and not having to rely on my family to bring me places. And I'd like to be able to go to more interviews and go to the library, especially like on my own, not having to worry about other people, and kind of getting my schedule back to the way that I want it. So not taking the night classes, taking daytime classes, and being able to travel a lot more. Since I can't drive and I have to wait for other people to drive me, I really can't explore any new places.
Right. And those all sound like wonderful goals for you, and they sound like they'll lead you to making a much more enriching life, a happier life for you. One thing I do want to touch on is that I know you said driving yourself is what you could do to move toward what's important to you. All of these goals that you've mentioned, but specifically that one, is a really big goal because it's where you're having the most problems, if I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an insurmountable goal, but it's a goal that's going to take a long time, just so you know.
Okay.
Maybe not a long time, but it's going to take work.
Yep.
So as long as you're willing to commit to working toward that, then we can say that it's achievable. Okay. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I understand that.
Alrighty. I just didn't want you to expect yourself to make a change overnight to being able to drive. But it's doable.
Okay.
Okay. So, do you mind if I make a copy of that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you can hold on to it for now. I'll make a copy at the end. And then I'll ask you to take the original home, and I'll keep the old one. And the original, I'd like you to kind of look at it throughout the week. Kind of notice, remember each of those things, why you wrote them, and what's important to you, what's getting in the way, and how you're going to move forward.
Okay.
You sound like you could just like look at it once, maybe throughout the week.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the next thing I want to talk to you a little bit about has to do with the bottom left quadrant. What thoughts or feelings are getting in the way of you moving forward. So,
yeah, the biggest one is probably that I can't drive anymore because I'm worried that if somebody's in the car with me, then we'll get in an accident and I'll end up injuring them because of it.
Okay, yeah, that is a really big one. So, in acceptance and commitment therapy, we call those thoughts hooks, like a fishing hook, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you feel like you can't control what's there?
I don't ever like think that before I get in the car. Typically, it's like when I start driving, I get really anxious that I'm going to hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you could pick whether or not to have those thoughts, would you pick to have them?
No, I would not want to have that at all.
No, but you recognize that you don't have control over what thoughts pop up.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do have control over is whether you bite the hook. So, biting the hook would be buying into those thoughts, like, I can't drive because if I do drive, then I'm going to hurt myself and whoever's in the car with me. Mm-hmm. Biting that hook is allowing it to take over your whole life. Like you said, it's allowing it to make you isolate, to keep you from things that you need, and keeping you from goals like going to school during a time of day that's more convenient for you, seeing your friends, traveling. Mm-hmm. So biting the hook is what we can control. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time because we've gotten so good at biting the hook. We've gotten so good at just accepting what's presented to us by, our painful past experiences. But I think through some work together, you could start to notice those hooks, and then instead of biting them, choose what to do forward, what to do going forward. You can't get rid of the hook, but you can change the behavior that follows noticing the hook.
Okay.
Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay. And you feel like that's something we could work on together?
Definitely.
Okay. Then that's something that we'll definitely continue to work on too.
Okay.
One more thing that I'd love to do with you before you leave is talk to you a little bit about mindfulness and maybe do a little bit of an exercise. Have you ever heard of mindfulness before?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so mindfulness is a word that's very similar to noticing, like we put on the life map. And it basically is the word noticing, allowing yourself to feel all your sensations, have all your thoughts, but not judge them.
Okay.
Not labeling them as good or bad, or right or wrong. Just noticing them, they're there. And by practicing mindfulness, it'll help you to identify your hooks, noticing when they're there, so that you can notice them and move forward.
Okay.
So have you ever done any guided meditation before?
I've been to yoga.
Yeah? Okay, so then you're a little bit used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then how would you feel about doing like a little breathing exercise today?
Yeah, I would like that.
It might be good for you to do at home if you like it.
Okay.
And if you feel uncomfortable at any point, let me know. We'll stop. We'll try something else, okay? Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So I'm first going to invite you to put your feet on the floor flat.
Okay.
You don't just sit however you're comfortable, but just make sure your feet are flat on the floor. And close your eyes if you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And just start to notice your breath. And feel your belly expand as you inhale and contract as you exhale. And really notice how that movement feels in your body. Notice how your chest lifts as you breathe and drops as you breathe out. And as you hear any noises or distractions, allow them to float in one ear and out the other. If you feel any tension in your body, focus your energy there and allow yourself to just disperse. Any thoughts, allow them to float by and come back to your breathing. On your next inhale, notice that there's a space between inhales and exhales. When you breathe in, there's a brief pause, almost as if your body knows when it's full of air, followed by an exhale. See if you can catch and notice that brief pause. On your next inhale, breathe in and feel the pause. Hold your breath for a moment, and then breathe in one more sip of oxygen, and then breathe out all the way as far as you can. And then just repeat that a few times. Breathe in, take an extra sip of oxygen, and then breathe out all the way. Allow your distractions to go as you bring your attention back to the breath and notice your mind becoming distracted. Before we end this exercise, just take a brief moment to notice what it feels like to be in this moment. Still with your eyes closed, bring your attention back to the room that we're in. Notice the sounds in your environment, the sensation of the rug underneath your feet. Bring a little motion back into your body, wiggle your fingers, twist your wrists, maybe even roll your shoulders if you want to. Move your head slowly from side to side and bring some motion into your neck, allowing your body to wake up and meet this moment. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes. How was that?
That was really nice.
It was nice?
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel?
It felt really good to just focus on my breathing and not anything else.
Mm-hmm. And when you heard some distractions or felt some, maybe itching or something, how did you deal with that?
I tried to just not pay attention to it and still do what you said and focus on just breathing in.
And how would you feel about using that again in the future?
I think that would work really well.
Okay. And there's an app called Headspace that you can get. I'm pretty sure if you have a phone, you can get it for free.
Mm-hmm.
You can download it, and it kind of guides you through meditations. Or they have guided meditations on YouTube for free.
Okay.
Or if you don't want to have anybody speaking during any kind of meditative time, you can just kind of practice that breathing.
Okay.
And maybe there's some music called Hertz frequencies that are really nice.
Okay.
They kind of sound like spa music. I'll write it down for you so you can have the word to type into YouTube if you want. So, is there anything else that we should talk about before you leave today?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay. And how would you feel about coming back next week?
I would like that a lot.
Okay, so with that in mind, is it okay if we could set a goal together?
Mm-hmm.
One goal before you come back next
week?
Sure. Okay. So, looking at your life map, what's something that you would like to, a goal that you would like to work on before next week?
Probably getting out and seeing my friends.
Okay. And so who would be driving you?
Either my mom or my boyfriend.
Okay. And have you tried to go out and see your friends in the past?
Yeah, I've seen them once since my accident, but a lot of the times I just have to cancel because I don't feel comfortable going.
And when you've had to cancel in the past, how have you reacted?
I get really upset about it because I don't want to make my friends feel like I'm just kind of like setting them up or leading them on for anything, and I don't want them to think that like I just don't want to get out and see them because it's not that.
Right. It's not that you don't want to see them. It's actually debilitating for you to drive. So knowing that when you have not gone in the past, it's really upset you.
Yeah.
How would you feel about making a smaller goal that if you do it or you don't do it,
Mhm.
it's kind of dust in the wind. How would you feel about that?
I can do that.
Okay, so would you mind me suggesting one?
Sure.
Just so that we can get the gauge of what a small enough goal would be. Although I do think that seeing your friends would be a great idea, but don't feel that you have to. So one thing that I would suggest that you do is when you're at a stop sign, just once in one instance, notice what one hook that comes into your mind. It doesn't have to be every time you're at a stop sign. It could just be once, and it could just be one hook, one thought that kind of is trying to get you to bite into that mindset.
Okay.
How does that feel?
Yeah, I can look for that.
All right. And would you be willing to share it with me next week?
Mhm.
Yeah. Even if you think you can remember it, that's fine. But maybe write it down if you think you're gonna forget.
Okay.
Alrighty. So then I'll see you next week. Okay, Tom?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much.
Mhm.